Warning: some viewers may find this content disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised. Alien abductees are those who claim to have seen a UFO/alien phenomena. What is your story? I'm not sure if this counts as alien or not, but I definitely saw something. I can't explain it all. About 5 years ago, and have been dying to tell the story in a thread. About 5 years ago, me and 2 other friends were on our way back from Warped Tour in Maryland, being driven by one of the friends' mom because none of us had a car we could drive yet. It was almost night, the sun was still kind of out and it wasn't that dark yet, and we were driving on a 2-lane highway that had trees on either side of the road and a median in the middle of the lanes. Basically, some creature ran out from the trees on the other side of the highway, jumped the median and sprinted towards the trees on our side. We almost hit the thing and our friend's mom had to slam on the brakes and everyone as the car was screaming our heads off, not because it was a look out for that deer situation, but because this was the scariest fucking looking thing I've ever seen. It was black, had long gangly limbs and moppy black long stringy hair. This thing moved so fucking weird, I can see it clearly to this day. It galloped so awkwardly, did not run at all like a deer or anything of the sort. When it jumped off of the back 2 legs and landed again on the back 2 legs before coming down and galloping across the road. Everyone in the car said the same thing. Which was, what the fuck was that thing? To this day I am convinced it was a demon or an alien or an escaped medical experiment. It was large, and terrifying, and the way it moved was unlike anything I have ever seen in my life. I wish I had more details, but sadly that's all I remember. I've asked my friends and that friend's mom about it numerous times years after the fact, and it still gives everyone shivers. This is the craziest UFO phenomena true story, and it came from my dad. 1960s in Ethiopia. My dad is just a child, 9 years old, at the time, playing with his best friend Gabriel after school. They were playing in the fenced backyard of my dad's house. My dad turns his back for a second, then turns to look back at his friend, and Gabriel is gone. It's important to note that my dad and Gabriel were from the top 1% of Ethiopia's ruling elite. My dad's father was Minister of Interior of Ethiopia and Gabriel's father was a 4-star general of Ethiopia. The backyard Gabriel disappeared from had 10-foot bricked walls with armed guards patrolling on the outside. A couple of hours pass, his parents, my dad's parents and guards are searching but no Gabriel. 48 hours pass, now there is a nationwide search for this important general's kid. It's on the news. Police are searching door to door, describing him and what he was wearing when he disappeared. He was wearing his private school uniform, white shirt, brown pants. Helicopters even searched the countryside looking for him, still nothing. A month passes, then 2, then 4, people start losing hope that he would ever be found and think the worst. Exactly 6 months to the day he disappeared, Gabriel appears back in my dad's backyard. He was wearing the same white shirt, private school uniform, and it was still clean. He looked exactly the same as when he disappeared. This is where it starts to get weird. Once they confirmed his was okay, they started asking where he had been. He said couple of nice men took him on a trip. He was in a white room that glowed and other children were there from different countries. He said he was surprised that the nice men who looked like white guys could speak Ethiopian and he could understand what the other children were saying even though they were not Ethiopian. The white glowing room had no windows and the doors disappeared into the walls. There were buttons on the walls, and if a kid pushed them, a bed would come out of the wall. He said he was then all of a sudden in a city that was glowing, clean, and cars were flying around him. He said there was people there but they looked strange, like us but different. One nice man was still with him and took him to a tall building, where he said he had to stay there for a while, but showed him a room that he could use for entertainment. Gabriel said he could push a button and the room itself goes places, an open field, the beach, the room itself even flies. He said after a couple of hours he was taken back to Ethiopia and appeared in the backyard. He thought he was only gone a couple hours total. No one believed him, and Ethiopia being a super religious country, most adults around him thought he got possessed by the devil. Gabriel even was forced to see a priest to get the evil spirits out of him. My dad still kept in contact with him throughout their lives. Gabriel got a doctorate in physics and I believe works Holland still. Mine happened in the early 2000s. I was around 16. Me, my brother, my friend and friend's father were catfishing on Lake Okeechobee in FL. The father had a large pontoon houseboat, so we stayed out there all night. Anyways, the father had went to bed and at about 2 a.m. I decided I was going to bed. I laid down for about 5 minutes when my brother and friend came into the cabin and told me to wake up. I wasn't asleep yet, so I just got up. We walk out on deck and they both just point out west in the sky. There was this orangish/blue ball kind of floating but moving side to side a bit. We just stared at it for a few minutes. As we kept watching, it would change color. It changed from orange to bluish to greenish and back. There was no pattern. It also moved different directions. Finally, after a few minutes, it just hauled ass and was gone. We weren't drinking or doing drugs, but we all saw it. Kind of freaked us out, but it was pretty cool. I have no idea what it was, but it was very strange. It wasn't a helicopter or plane, I do know that. Never thought I'd be someone to have a missing time story, but it happened. December 29, 2001, we left my house at 6 p.m. We rode our bikes to the woods down THD block and hung out there for a bit. My friend was crushing the ice lake with a fence pole we found, and suddenly I heard footsteps behind me. I got up and ran to my friends, and the lake was frozen back over. We checked the time, it was 8:15. We then saw the most amazing shooting star horizon to horizon above us. We even heard it. We hid in the woods and saw a star slowly move across the sky. Normally I would say it's a satellite, but it moved a few inches in the sky and then stopped. There's no way over 2 hours went by. The woods are just a few blocks away. Mine happened probably back in about 95 to 96-ish. At the time, I was a pizza delivery guy. I was out on a delivery, and after the delivery, I was returning to the store. While driving along the highway, I noticed 3 still lights, almost in a row, way off above the horizon. It was evening, dark. Stars were visible. First thought was that they were from planes for the airport, as they were way brighter than the stars that were out. They only looked still cause I was driving on the highway, and my mind was playing tricks on me, etc. etc. Over the course of the next few minutes, as I was continuing down the highway, I noticed the center light started moving up. It continued into the shape of a triangle. I continued to try to keep an eye on triangle of lights in the distance as the whole thing started moving up in the sky. I eventually lost eyesight of this thing behind trees/whatever else and made it back to work. Was utterly confused by the whole thing, didn't tell anyone cause I figured they'd think I was crazy. I kind of even thought myself I was seeing things and making shit up. To know why I remember this part, this all happened about a week before Super Bowl. Might have even been the Friday before Super Bowl. Unsure. All I remember is that before the Super Bowl, I was watching Sci-Fi Channel. Some show was on about people who had seen UFOs, whatever. I was always skeptical at best. Then they did a segment on the numerous sights of triangle-shaped lights. And they started showing clips of the few examples that people had caught on video. It was exactly what I had seen. Never saw anything since. No one else reported any strange sights that weekend that I knew of. Course I was a dumb early 20s kid, so I didn't pay attention to local news. But I'll never forget that incident. Last Halloween, me and my friends were on a dock about to light off some fireworks. We had all just arrived and were still just shooting the shit to see if anyone else would show up. Myself and my buddy were looking up at the stars when right above a hill behind our town we seen a light, and it looked really odd. It was sort of bluish gray in color, but what was interesting was it had a metallic rainbow-colored halo around it in the shape of a magnetic field, like how you see the magnetic field of the Earth. It was just hovering there at first, but then it slowly moved in a sort of wavy motion from east to west, and then when it got to the edge of the hill it hovered for a minute longer and then shot straight up into the sky. It wasn't very high in the sky, maybe 1,000 to 2,000 feet in the air. I will never forget the color of that magnetic rainbow force field looking thing. I saw a UFO up close. Probably from 30 feet away tops. I'm pretty certain that it was of military design, though. I was out driving with my younger brother near a military base in Tucson, Arizona, probably not even 2 miles from my house. It was about 10 p.m. or so and there were no cars on the road. I was making a left at an intersection, and right as I completed my turn I heard it. VRRM 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 approaching from behind us. Literally the sound that they play as an effect for hovercraft in movies? That was what I was hearing. It started out quiet but got louder as the craft got closer. Since it was obviously heading above us, my brother leaned out the window and exclaimed loudly, "Whoa, it's a fucking UFO." To which I responded by hitting the brakes. What I saw shocked me and has had me convinced ever since. As I came to a stop, the craft glided above us and I watched the wings detach like a transformer robot and lower themselves from the craft by about 5 to 10 feet. The wings at this point were supported only by 2 rods connected to the craft. There were 2 giant thrusters on each wing as well as an even larger one on the bottom of the main body of the craft. The shape and the movements suggested that it was in some sort of VTOL mode, because as it changed into this VTOL mode it swung around and did a complete 180 over a 2-story building just ahead of us to our left, barely missing the roof with its wings. Then it reconnected the wings forming a triangular shape and it boosted off back over our heads at an incredible speed. To further describe the craft, it had 2 modes as far as we could tell. One where the craft is consolidated into a triangular shape and seems to be designed for quick horizontal travel, while the other mode allowed for VTOL movements. It could switch between modes in like 5 seconds or less, and in VTOL mode it almost looked like the body of a stealth bomber but with two sword-shaped objects underneath it. And of course with thrusters facing it like a 45-degree angle, but they were adjustable. The whole thing was pitch black and we would have never noticed it if we hadn't had the radio off and heard it approaching from behind. I could come back later with a drawing of it if you guys are interested. I got an incredibly good look at it because even though it was late, the craft was flying so low that I could see it via the street lights. My brother was so scared afterwards he immediately called the cops. Pretty amazing experience, all in all. Before I tell my story, I'd like to say that I am a complete skeptic and question anything and everything supernatural. I think extraordinary claims should always require extraordinary evidence. Even to this day, I will never be able to empirically prove what I experienced. I am currently 26 years old. This happened on June 16, 2007. I remember it vividly. It was immediately embedded into my long-term memory when it all happened. In psychology, I believe they refer to these events as a flashbulb memories. Anyways, I was living in my parents' home at the time. It was a pretty stormy night. The wind was gusting slightly more than usual. Rain was coming down violently, your typical crackles of thunder/lightning. I was playing WoW at the time, enjoying the idea that I had a legitimate excuse not to go out and do anything. I was about to finish one of the longest chain quests in the game and, boom, the internet goes out. I try for about 30 anxious minutes to get the internet to work, and you guessed it. Nothing. I head to my room, frustrated. Here I am. Home alone, no internet and irritated as hell. My parents at the time were out at a work-related event. I remember laying on my bed just staring at the ceiling, turned my head to look at my old retro alarm clock. It read, 6:18 p.m. Knock. 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 I immediately sprung up, eyes wide open, startled as hell. I crawl to my window that faces the front door and knock. 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 Again. I peek outside my window to see 3 tall men literally dressed in your typical FBI-looking black suits. One had what looked to be a folder/file or something, another had what I have now identified as a Geiger counter, the other one was beating my door with his huge fist. I head to the door not really thinking much of it. I honestly thought they were church people just soliciting their beliefs. I open the door, the one man nearest the door that was knocking, greets me in a very monotone voice, pulls out a badge and says him and his colleagues need to check the water source from the house's faucets. I asked them a bunch of questions. It turns out that they were in fact the FBI and someone had allegedly tried to poison the city water. I called my parents to let them know what was going on. They okayed the situation. The guys in the suits didn't even check the water in my house. They had some other group of government guys show up and check. I tried to ask if there was a motive or if it was terrorist. Whatever it might be. They simple said they couldn't talk about it in detail. Out of fucking nowhere, all the lights in the house go out. It's pitch black. The guys in suits tell everyone to stay calm. They think it's just a power outage. The guys taking water samples turn on their flashlights. As one of the flashlights flashes over the tallest of the suited men, I see a reflection from his face, like there was metal under his face. The guy with the flashlight quickly directs the light somewhere else. A moment later, the guy with the flashlight says, "Sir, it has begun." The suited guy with the Geiger counter turns it on. The thing just starts going haywire. Not even 3 seconds later, it felt as if I was being pulled into a million different directions. I could not see anything at first, just excruciating pain. I thought I was in the process of being disintegrated alive. Out of nowhere, I see nothing but white. I literally thought I was in what religious people call heaven. A man appears to me and smiles, swings his arm in an inviting/gesture way, as if I were entering a ballroom dance or party. I try to walk but nothing, then white room gets sucked into itself, and I see my life flash before my eyes. I see everything. Disneyland at 5, my first kiss at 15, watch 9/11 happen on TV with mom and dad, everything. I see Earth suspended in space. I am watching Earth from above, and I fall. I am falling, heart racing, numbness, disbelief. I see the ground getting closer and closer. I know this is it, and I know I will die. Before I hit the ground, I hear the monotone voice of the suited man say in my head, "Do not," static and white noise, "no matter what." I woke up in my bed with a cold sweat and a panic. I freaked the fuck out and ran downstairs to find my parents cooking dinner. I run back upstairs and see the time is 6:22 p.m. I was relieved to find out it was a dream. But it gets creepy. I go back downstairs and ask my parents when they got home. They told me they've been home as it was their day off. I asked how their company event went and they said it was last week. I asked them what time I feel asleep. They told me, they didn't know I was sleeping. I go to my computer and find that my WoW account was logged in and where I left off before the internet went down. I check my computer for the date, and it was the 23rd. I have literally no memory of a full week. I try to recall what had happened in my dream, it was a blur. I go back upstairs and see that it looked like someone went through my closet. I search around and freak the fuck out. The exact same Geiger counter the alleged FBI agent was holding was in my closet. I have never told anyone about this till now. I still have the Geiger counter and don't know what to do with it. I can post a pic of it if someone wants, but I don't really want to, for my own protection. I will though, as I know this sounds crazy. I've since spent the last decade trying to put the pieces together. I just live day by day as an ordinary person, hoping they don't return. This event occurred in 2011 and has haunted me every day since. I work in networking and all of hours are late. I usually get off around 2 AM and then I am up for a few hours before I go to bed. This evening I got off work and it was raining really bad on my way home. When I got home, by chance, the clouds broke and I stepped outside to have a quick smoke. One of my buddies called me and we were chatting about work. It was still not raining and there were low-lying clouds. There are orange street lights in Allen and they were reflecting off the bottom of the clouds creating an artificial light. There was a pretty good breeze whipping around, but no rain. I was facing the west and I look to my right and I see a black cube moving out of the north and traveling south at about 60 to 80 miles per hour. It was moving with a corner forward. This thing was huge. I was astonished to the core of my soul. I sat speechless for a few seconds knowing that I was seeing something amazing. It was 80 to 100 feet tall. It was a black cube in shape and looked like a rough stone surface. On the side of the cube was a border and within the border was a circular symbol, if that's what it even was. It looked like if you were to draw a circular maze. It was disturbing the air behind it and created a vaporous trail spinning behind it and then disappearing. There was absolutely no sound. None. If you know Dallas, it was traveling in the direction of southbound 75 Central Expressway towards downtown. I told my buddy what I had seen and he lives a few miles south. I fumbled over my words telling him and asked him to go outside to see if he could see it. He went out to the middle of his street and looked in the direction that it was coming from. After about 5 minutes it started to rain again. He stood out in the rain for another 15 minutes but never saw it. Good friend, lol. Anyways, no one can ever tell me that I didn't see what I saw that night. I have been ridiculed and laughed at, but I know what I saw. It is almost a relief at this point to know that they are really here. I have been a long-time lurker and I had to get this off of my chest. I have been searching Black Cube UFO for years now, every single day. I cannot stop thinking about it. I have to see it again. Thanks for listening. Edit, Allen, Texas, near Dallas. Edit, sorry for the potato quality drawing. I could always take more time and sketch something more detailed, but this is the gist of it. It was below the clouds. This is a sketch as it passed directly in front of me. It looked like the entire cube was carved from a single stone. It had a border along its edges and a circular pattern in the middle. Think of a view of a circular maze from above. Also of interesting note, no lights from the craft either. I was expecting a light show, but I will settle with what I got to witness any day. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more daily videos, and join the Spooky Squad.